And salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to today's upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Only. Those audiobooks, they're available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all these things, they really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter when they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we? So 3 things in today's upload, all interesting and in my eyes, awesome. One is an update on the young girl who was savagely attacked up in Quaidville, which is Ontario, Canada. I talked about that a couple days ago. The second is 2 brief things, the young girl, and the next is my dad got in touch with a buddy of his that he knew from his days in the military. And I know him. I remember him from when I was young. And my dad really got to become good friends with him on a now defunct naval base out in Bermuda. He remembers me from when I was little and we were there. So my dad was part of the Brownwater Navy and retired from the Department of Navy years later. But he shared some weird stuff with me. I've shared it on the channel. But they got talking and he must have asked how I was. My dad told him about the channel and this and that. And he said, well, hey, give me Jeff's email. I got something pretty cool to share with him. And maybe he'll be interested in it. So he typed it out and sent it to me. The last thing I want to talk about is the update to yesterday's part 2. Craig, mission worker, and his experiences all came to us from Atacama Desert in Chile, in an area called Valley of the Moon, or Valle de la Luna. And some crazy stuff. I shared it with you guys yesterday. Rafi, the young man that he met there, his dad disappeared. For some reason, his family was arrested and taken back to the States. Now, this is 4 isolated villages in this region. Actually 5, but one is part of Solar. It's almost like a square of these 4 isolated villages. There is technology is a unknown up there, or down there. So he wanted to share some more stuff with me. And I told you guys a little bit about this in that upload, that there was more to come. And he wanted to touch base with 2 of the guys that he knew from there. One being a gentleman named Jonathan and a priest named Father Francisco, who is native to Chile, but part of the mission. They brought the word of Christ up out there and helped with just the basic necessities of life that these people don't have. Like, we take for granted our phones. There was a comment saying, how come we never hear about this stuff out there? Well, it's practically a third world country, 4 isolated villages. That's why, on top of the government being there, the U.S. government arrested Rafi and his family and took them to the States for some reason. And Craig has never been able to find out why. So I got a little bit more info on that, and it is absolutely mind-blowing. When he and I talked, I stood up. I was down here. I stood up and I said, I need to take a second. I said, can you just give me a second? And he said, absolutely. Are you all right? And I said, I'm kind of blown away here. I said, and what you shared with me today just really made that first upload so solid that the information is just boggling to me. So let's get into it. On Wednesday, I shared the details on this account. On the 24th, actually on the 23rd, a young 8-year-old girl was in a remote area called Quaidville, Ontario. It's a haul from Ottawa. It's like 60 kilometers from Renfrew, and it's a very remote kind of village. I think about 1,500 people in total. So this little girl is last seen with friends at about 6 p.m. at a local market. They do not find her. They find her hours later in a remote area in the woods, clinging to life, savagely attacked by something, an animal, they say. Animal. She is then brought to a local hospital and then transported to a pediatric trauma hospital where she still is right now. Now, immediately, the government and or police put a lid on it. Let's not share any information other than kids should be kept inside or under close supervision. Mind you, Canada Days was this past weekend. So this town is in an uproar because no one's saying what attacked this little girl. And it's starting to remind me of the Brenda Hamilton case a little bit because of how the community is asking all the right questions and is very proactive in this. They went out to help find this little girl. Even though there was the police, provincial police, fire department, this and that, all out there looking. They find her in this just isolated area off of Quaidville Road, which they had cordoned off. But the thing is if you look at that picture and you look at the map that they provide, she was found deeper than what the picture shows us. So they don't tell you what attacked her. They did ask her questions on what attacked her with no results. So now it's still looking the way it did on the 23rd and 24th, or technically 24th, as a government kind of keeping a lid on it. Families are fleeing the urban center for Canada Day long weekend. One popular Eastern Ontario getaway is still under warning. Suspected animal attack in Quaidville, 8-year-old girl, potentially life-threatening injuries. Grandparents and parents are urged to keep their kids in. Once again, provincial police and or town government isn't really doing their job, you know. You've got a young woman or young girl. What young woman? I think of my daughter. You got a young girl, 8-year-old girl, and she is savagely attacked but alive, clinging to life. I'd imagine they've tried to ask questions, but to no avail, to this young girl. Nobody sees anything. Nobody hears anything. I'm gonna reach out to a couple of people I know up in this region, or actually out in Ottawa, actually. But yeah, you know, you're talking about a town in uproar. Canada Days is at their doorstep, and it's just cover up the truth and let's let a little bit of information out. It's sad. It's sad. There's still no news. We're a week into it, and now they can't even lie to us. They can't even say, hey, it was a bear. Hey, it was a wolf. It was a big cat. Actually, when I looked, and I shared this on Wednesday, when I looked at some of the posts that had been posted, one person literally said animal with the, or of the two-legged nature. Another person said maybe this will finally get the police and government to finally admit what is out there. Cowards. Like, literally, these people are, and that is exactly what occurred with Brenda Hamilton, because the government was so slow to act. It's a tragedy. It's really a tragedy. So I apologize for not having any more information than what I do. It's a tragic case. Reminds me of how the government acted when Brenda Hamilton was found. I'm glad that young girl is still alive, and I'm praying for her family, because that, as a dad of 2 girls, I could never imagine what that family is going through, especially at 8 years old. You know, my youngest is 17, going to be 18 this year, and wow. I still remember when she was 8, and I'm sure as parents you always do and always will. You know how precious and fragile they are. This poor little girl. So now the next order of business is a experience sent to me via my dad's buddy, and I met him twice before. Very nice guy. His experience is quite chilling, and we talk about the stuff on this channel on a daily basis, and that's what makes it even more chilling. Oh God. Anyway, let's get into it. Jeff, how are you? Don't know if you remember me, but I remember you. Ron, I knew your dad. I'm 79 years young. I'm still probably better looking than your father. Anyway, I had one experience with the paranormal my entire life. I guess that's what I call it. I don't know what cryptids are until your dad told me about your YouTube channel, and I watched some of your videos. Great stuff. Really like it. Anyway, my experience happened while I was in Vietnam. And I know for a fact that my experience was not the only one of its kind. Let me tell you something. You know the movie The Predator? Well, whoever made that movie knew about these things, because that movie was spot on. I was with the 281st Assault Helicopter Company in Vietnam, and our job was to fly those Special Force guys around Vietnam and conduct raids, recon, and all sorts of other things. I don't really know if they teach this, but the U.S. invented air assault operations using helicopters, and let me tell you, it's effective catching the enemy from behind where they least expect it. But it was dangerous because if the info you got was not good, and most of the time it wasn't, you'd end up smack dab in the middle of two NVA forces. Well, what we did was sort of like that, only much more dangerous because we worked with small teams. Anyway, the chopper went down in 67. It wasn't enemy fire or anything like that, it was mechanical. Nowadays, we've got redundancies. But the Huey was pretty new and had a lot of single points of failure. The shops kept our choppers at good working order, so I don't know, maybe it was just bad luck. It wasn't that bad of a crash thanks to the tree canopy and such. In fact, we were pretty low and going slow at the time, but the chopper rolled over and fell out of a tree about 20 feet to the ground and crushed 3 of our boys instantly. That only left me, the co-pilot, and 5 Special Force guys. We had an old PRC-10 radio that survived. The damn thing wouldn't transmit, it only received. I believe it got battered in the crash. We were 20 quick clicks away from the nearest fire base. I know that doesn't sound far for you guys, but you gotta figure the weather, the jungle. This place was soup of trees and vegetation, slowing you down to just a couple of clicks a day. We debated on staying put for a rescue team, but we knew we were very close to a major VC operation unit. That's why we were there. If our friends had seen the crash and heard our mayday over the radio, so did the bad guys. Anyway, we gathered what we could from the helicopter, destroyed some sensitive info in case, and moved out. We didn't see it the first night, but we heard it. At first, I thought it was a strange bird. It made this clicking sound that sounded like 2 pieces of metal clicking them rapidly together. But one of the Special Force guys said, "That ain't a bird." These guys are trained to know their stuff, help them identify sounds in the jungle and all that, so I took him for what it was worth. We thought it was the VC, so we put our asses in gear. But the sound, it kept catching up to us, and at one point it moved past us, just off in the trees, maybe 40 yards in front of us, and it was high, like it was moving in the treetops. We froze, took cover, thinking it was still the VC, but it made no sense. Besides, if there were VC out there, they would have pounced on us. Taking us as prisoners was top priority. They loved it back then. During the day, we rested to avoid the worst of the heat and humidity. Then started moving late in the day and at night. We were definitely going slow. It was just after heavy rains, so the ground was marshy and it was awful muggy. We were making 3, maybe 4 clicks a day, if that. As soon as we started moving, though, the clicking sound was there again. It's almost like it was letting us know, "Hey, I'm here. I know you guys are." It didn't make any noise while we were sleeping or not. The second night, something walked by in the brush just ahead of us. I was near the front, so I saw it along with one other guy. I can't describe it. It was dark, and we weren't getting much moonlight through that canopy, but you could clearly see how the darkness changed as if something moved in front of us. I hope that makes some sense. It was like something large was walking across the gaps in the trees just ahead of us, and we knew it was there because even though we could not see it, we heard the trees and everything else move when it moved through there. That scared the shit out of me. It scared me witless. For a second, and by the time we brought our rifles up, this thing was gone. We were expecting enemy contact at any time, but this was different. It was like we all knew it was there, but it was not natural. The next day, we all saw it. We had taken shelter in a thick canopy of the trees. We had taken shelter in the thick shade of the trees, provided protection from the sun and pretty good concealment. Suddenly we heard it. It was moving through the brush again. We thought it must have been the VC, so we crawled to the edge of our cover where we could look out and open fire if need be. There was a small opening in the trees, and the jungle had some very interesting tall grass. You could see our trail through the tall grass because of how it was beaten down. Well, that was a fake trail, because two of the special force guys had taken the time to make a fake trail that led into the jungle on the far end of the field and made a big circle to confuse anyone who was following us. We couldn't see it, but we heard it again. And then we could spot the vegetation on the far side moving, almost parting apart as it was walking through it. Then you could see where it was going by the way it pushed the grass down. It went up our fake trail and seemed to stop. Then it started following the trail. At this point, it was close enough that you could see that shimmering effect, like in the Predator movie. It was like you could see right through this thing, but everything behind it was just distorted. The thing followed that fake trail into the jungle, and we could hear it moving in the distance, and after that we never saw or heard of it again. I don't know if it really lost our trail, or maybe it just got bored. Anyway, I thought this would be more exciting, but it was plenty exciting for us, let me tell you that. We swore we would not tell anyone about this when we got back, because hey, who the hell would believe us? And none of us wanted to get put up on some review. I can't tell you much about what it looked like, only that it was large. You could tell from the size of the visual distortion it created, and all of the grass and vegetation pushed out of the way. I don't know if it was an alien or anything like that. I just know what I saw, and I know that plenty other guys saw these things as well, not just the guys I was with. So the last part of the upload is everything that Craig and I talked about today. And he has been still trying to locate where or what became of Rafi. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go and find the upload I did yesterday. Church mission workers attacked by Dogman. There's 4 small villages in this area. And one is Tolar, Bitar, Kolo, and Solar, and then Kukutar. So Bitar would be the 5th one, but the smaller one that is associated with Solar. Now, during all of this, there was a kind of this place, this Valley of the Moon, is honestly a hellscape. It truly, at night, it's a very beautiful place. It really is beautiful, but it's freaking eerie looking at night. You can Google the pictures of it. It's hard to imagine a place being so beautiful that it's so terrifying at the same time. And there are just these strange rocks everywhere and this and that. And there is essentially a deep underground base, or I wouldn't say city, maybe. Who knows what and how big these things are. But he and I were talking, and he listens to the channel, So we were talking about a lot of different things. And he said to me, you know, think about Mount Shasta. Think about what happened to Kirk. And with the giant creatures, the alien creatures, the crucified looking whatever that was, Dogman, Bigfoot, all within this underground facility, right? Facility. That's what I should have said. And so what is above Shasta, Mount Shasta, that makes it look eerie sometimes? And I immediately said the clouds that many people mistaken for UFOs, the venticular clouds, circular, and they look like a UFO. These venticular clouds are in this region. They are in and above this valley, which is very interesting. Because what if they are shrouds, or would that be the right word? Yeah, of cover for alien ships to, or what if they are some sort of portal? I have a hard time with believing that aliens come from outer space. I believe they use portals. I believe they use wormholes. Because if you think about something, here's the scientific fact. From one end to our galaxy to the other end of the galaxy is 100,000 light years. All right. So the fastest thing on Earth is light. The fastest thing we know, the travel of light. It would take like 2 billion years for us to fly from one end to the other with the technology that we have. In the fastest craft that we have. And that goes 38,000 miles per hour. So it's cruising, but it's nothing compared to space travel. So from one end of the galaxy to the other end of the galaxy is 100,000 light years. That means it takes a light, the fastest thing known to man to travel. It takes a ray of light from one end to the other 100,000 years to travel that distance. So how, in fact, I highly doubt that these intelligent beings have not mastered a better way of travel. It would be so not practical for these things, so I believe that I also believe that aliens or these alien-like creatures are demons. And I may get crap for that, but that's just my opinion. Now, we've got a comparison to venticular clouds, but here's something that I talked about in the first upload where they have seen, and there is talk of these alien-like creatures that live under this area in this deep underground facility under the Valley of the Moon and the surrounding area. That there are these strange looking creatures, and that quite possibly these dogmen-like creatures that had been spotted and attacked the missionary workers, they may be alien-like creatures as well. I mean, the Anunnaki talk about a dog-headed race of alien. But to me, and all of these things sound demonic, like they're just demonic to me. So you have all of this one thing that now, during all of this time that he's been trying to find what happened to his friend Rafi, he has been talking with Father Francisco and trying to find out, like, hey, what do you think? Where do you think I'd be able to, and why do you think they took him, arrested his family and him, and brought him to the United States? There is no reason for that. Why would they? Unless they know what, I'm sharing right now is the fact that, his dad they had seen this opening, this rock that shimmered. There was it looked just like a rock, but boop, portal. So during the time that he's discussing this with one of his old mission workers and this Father Francisco started to talk about these strange and violent demonic creatures that use portals as a way of traveling, but they live underground. And he had seen these things firsthand. What this Father Francis, and I'm saying this Father Francis because I don't know him and I didn't speak to him. So what Father Francis said, and Craig is not fluent in Chilean Spanish, and different areas of Chile speak a different variant of this Chilean Spanish. So there is an area that they were going to travel to. There's this kind of old, fallen out of repair, I guess. It's not a loss. It's not a total loss. It just needs some work. Father Francis and a few of these mission workers, there's this really old church out there, just past the towns and kind of north of the Valley of the Moon. And it had stood since early 1900s, possibly late 1800s. He's never been there. Craig has never been there. He had heard about it. He just never had the opportunity to go. But I guess it's just this very remote, small, little church. And this Father Francis and a few of these mission workers were going to see how bad it was truly and what it would be to fix it, and make it a place of celebration of Jesus and his word. Because once again, not only are they helping with bringing water and fixing up their homes and such, they are spreading the word of Jesus. So you need a church, so they wanted to see this what this church looked like and how much repair it really needed. Well, they get going, and there's an area called Garganta del Diablo, the Devil's Throat, and it's a cave, and that's just south of this church. And as they are going towards the church, San Isidro, they see these beings coming out of this opening. He and a local, one of the guides, along with the mission workers, one of the guides states to Father Francis in this Chilean Spanish, something along the lines of, there the creatures are, the demons, Diablos. And immediately Father Francis starts to pray, blessing everyone, blessing, the vehicle, nothing may happen, and these creatures will not, mess with them. What they resembled essentially was draconian. They were 7 to 8 feet in height with broad shoulders, pure reptilian. There were 2 regular bipedal ones, and then there was one that was bigger that had wings. And it didn't take flight in front of Father Francis and the mission workers and the guide / interpreter, or whatever you want to call it. But it put Father Francis in a state of shock, and he was very angry because he associated that one draconian creature with the wings that I've shared on this channel, information from books that I've read about Phil Schneider and such, and Bill Cooper. Tom Castiello talks about him in his notes from the Battle of the Dulce. But if you have 2 of these littler creatures, and I mean little by like 7, 8 feet, so much bigger than a human, but then you have a very large one of these creatures that has wings, you are immediately, if you are him, immediately going to say, the devil, the devil. And as they are passing, he is praying and saying, in broken Chilean Spanish, like, there they are, the hounds of hell, the devil, the demons, because as they are, still trying to locate this small, remote little church, they see Dogman with these creatures. Hounds of hell immediately is in his voice, almost saying, get out of here, demons. So they don't go to the church. He's not been to the church. This Father Francis has not been to this church because he now refuses to go past this, the devil's throat, or this cave system. During all of this Jonathan guy ends up talking and translating some of the things that Father Francisco had said. And he had been talking about the day that they had seen the hellhounds and demons with the devil. And he talked a little bit about the flood, and how not only was it in the Middle East, but it was globally. And we do know that there are geological clues talking about a deluge or whatever, the flood, in America, in Central America, South America, worldwide. And he starts to talk about how there are more of these biblical demons and creatures. And in Acoma, there is a strange kind of giant-like creature that is carved into the ground, or carved into rock. and it is Gigante de Atacama, or the Atacama Giant, and it is enormous. It is a kind of hieroglyph or geoglyph, prehistoric anthropomorphic geoglyph. Now, I'm going to share this with you because I have never heard of this. And this is a representation of the Nephilim. And that's what he was talking about. So the Atacama Giant, or the Gigante de Atacama, is an anthropomorphic geoglyph on the Cerro Uintas area of Atacama Desert in Chile at about 119 meters or 390 feet. Is the largest prehistoric anthropomorphic geoglyph. It has been suggested that it represents possibly a shaman, a spiritual figure, a deity, or demon. The Atacama Giant is one out of nearly 5,000 geoglyphs, ancient artwork that has been drawn into the landscape that has been discovered in the Atacama region just within the last 30 years. It is believed that they are work of several successive cultures that dwelt in this region of South America. The Inca, including the Inca in the Tiwanaku, which is a pre-Columbian culture. The Atacama Giant was built sometime between 1000 and 1400 CE. One suggested explanation for this figure's features and functions is that the alignment of the points on the top and side of the head with the moon helped to determine the season, which was useful since knowing when the rainy season would come to the desert is crucial. Now, I will share a photo of what this giant. To me, it looks very similar to what a demon or, I mean, it is creepy. And there's one out of 5,000 geoglyphs in this area. So you have all of these very strange kind of drawings or carvings into the earth representing biblical and demonic creatures. The venticular clouds, which are spotted over Mount Shasta. There's a very big, large connection here. Very similar to like when I connected Dulce to where Andrew Dawson had spotted what he had seen. And I know there's people out there that, really downplay or tried to debunk the Andrew Dawson case. They did not debunk it because I found the funeral home where he had his memorial. There is not there is a resort or some sort of thing, but it is not on Canoe Mountain. And I said this, that just because a channel has multiple hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of subscribers does not mean that they are an expert in any way or their words and what they say is any different than mine or yours. It just means that they caught the YouTube wave and rode it in. They were here before, long before, So, that is a serious connection. So this Atacama Desert and what is going on in these Valley of the Moon, in the Devil's Throat, all has a serious connection to like Mount Shasta. So in all of these these villages, these 4 main villages, Father Francis spreads the word of Jesus and has heard multiple, countless experiences shared by the indigenous people that live here. And, you know, he has heard of these dogmen coming into these villages late at night under the darkness and literally taking women, children, men, never to be seen again, like just gone, almost like the wind, you know. And he talks about how this place is so evil, or the history of it. The people are not, but the history of it is so evil that quite possibly that's why these creatures or these beings were drawn here, or it's that way because they've been here for so long. When we were talking, 1000 CE, these things were drawn. So, however that translates into time-wise with the biblical flood, it's too coincidental to ignore. But you've got multiple accounts of these dogmen, but as he calls them, hellhounds. And why wouldn't you call them a hellhound when you are a Catholic priest trying to spread the word of Jesus, but yet you see what you see, you hear what you hear, because he's going to hear more information from these villagers and these indigenous people here, that during confession, during private conversations, like there are parts of not solar, but tutar or whatever, tatar, that they actually go to where the tular, where the rock area is, where Rathe's father had been last seen, and put goat out there as some sort of sacrifice. In these goats, they come back later and there is nothing there, and they are secured there, so they're not going to run off on their own because they are secured in these areas. I don't know how you or how anyone could overlook what is going on. There are too many puzzle pieces right here in this region. And these 4, 5 villages, once again, one of the smaller ones, is part of the Solar community. To me, it's all right in front of us. You have a eerie, haunted kind of locale. And when I say haunted, I mean haunting. Like just this very hellscape. It is a freaking hellscape. And then you have this place, the Devil's Throat. You have geoglyphs of giants. Like, it doesn't get any clearer. And how is this overlooked? Makes no sense, right? I mean, dang. Sacrificial, which is definitely, something old world and not Catholic, but Father Francisco respects their beliefs. He's not there to pound Jesus into their lives. He shares and hopes and prays that they will come to the side of forgiveness and love. But they are so rooted in their culture that they've been dealing with these things for so long. How do you overlook that? I can't. I really can't. It's too freaking scary for me. Like, the connections there are deep underground bases or facilities all over this world, and we just keep finding them. And it is, especially under the Arctic. That's so. Anyway, that is the information that was shared to me via Craig. He said, I'm not going to reach out unless I have more, but I'm not going to reach out until I find Rafe. And I said, I will pray for you, my friend. And Rafi, be safe. So, and with all that being said, I'd like to thank you all for supporting this channel. It is, after all, your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. And until next time, never stop asking questions. Never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all. So, like I said in the upload, this is a picture of the Atacama giant, and you can see very clearly it's got a demonic quality and some sort of alien-like quality. Very, very interesting. But what else I am sharing with you, the next picture is the Atacama hand. Now, why is it so big? It's obviously it is made of stone, but is it a representation of the Nephilim that walked at one point on the land during the time of the Inca and the other tribes or indigenous that were up here? So, very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff, and everything is definitely connected.